Hello and welcome to My Life in 10 Pictures. I'm Sherry Eugene Hart, and today I'm very pleased and proud to be joined on the sofa by John Nation. John Nation, as you know, is the man who inspired, who was the catalyst, who sowed the seeds for Bristol street art over 30 years ago. John, did everyone ever call you blonde and blue-eyed boy?
Possibly my nan maybe called me the blonde blue-eyed boy because I was a young blonde with blue eyes.
And we can prove that with your first picture.
You can indeed.
Oh, you look so cute in that picture.
Thank you, Sherry.
Did you ever realise, even at that age, 8 or 9, that you would become the sensation that you are today?
I wouldn't call myself a sensation. I am really just a general normal guy, but at that age, no, I didn't realise what I would go on to be involved with, or I didn't even know what dreams or aspirations I had as a school career or what path my life would take me.
Well, in this conversation, it will be revealed what a sensation you really are. I know you're a modest man. Yeah. You really are, but by the end of it, I think you'll realise that, John Nation, you are something quite special. Do you know you've got a special name as well? John Nation, it's just a great name. It
is my surname though. Lots of people used to think that when my name was mentioned, John Nation, that Nation was some kind of alias or nom de plume, but it's actually my surname.
That's you.
It is.
Absolutely. Well, let's take us straight through to the second picture.
Okay.
You're a little bit older. You're going to secondary school.
Yeah.
St George School.
St George Comprehensive, correct, Russelltown Avenue.
You weren't an easy teenager, were you?
To be honest, I wasn't an easy teenager. I think at that time I had a lot of angst in me. I also did not have focus in career. What I was going to do is a job. Being from a predominantly working class inner city area of the city, Barton Hill, I mixed with quite a few people that basically would quite few possibly lead me down a path that wasn't the right path for me at that time. I've got no shame in admitting that as a teenager I did go off the rails a bit, but managed to pull that back around.
I can't go on without asking you what that means. I mean, what did it mean? You went off the rails. What did you do?
I basically got involved quite heavily with football hooliganism and terrorist culture, and at a young age, at 15, I was basically involved in an act of football hooliganism at a Bristol City match, which then meant that I lost my freedom and liberty, and I was taken away via short, sharp shock, is what the Tory government at that time wanted to do with young people like myself, and basically I was sent to a detention centre for football hooliganism.
Do you regret that?
I regret it deeply, but what it also did was that it gave me time whilst in that correctional facility to step back, look at my life, analyse where I was going wrong. Did I want to go down this path that a lot of the other guys in that institution that were basically going to become institutionalised? A lot of them are repeat offenders. A lot of them would go on to spend a lot of their life in custody. I didn't want that. I hated my freedom being took away. And it also had a big impact on my family, especially my mum.
Of course. So in a way, that was the start of it shaping you in a positive way. Right. Let's move on to the third photo. You're there, you're at a wall, and let's just use this term graffiti art, because that's how most people know you, apart from music, which we will go on to shortly. This is Barton Hill?
Barton Hill Youth Club, where basically I was a youth worker. After leaving school, I became one of the youngest ever youth workers employed by the local authority. Reason being, many of the youth of that area were disaffected with the more so liberal, trendy, middle class, Clifton kind of people that were coming to the centre as youth workers. And the worker at the time, who was the full-time youth worker, decided that he wanted young people from the area who could relate to the living experiences of those young people to become involved with youth work. I loved getting involved with youth work. It was something that I passionately believed in, and it was something that definitely shaped the person that I am today. And so The picture in itself reflects a later stage of my youth work.
Well, the next picture is you were at a camp somewhere. You're a teenager, an older teenager,
Yeah.
but you're also a youth worker there as well.
The picture is from a international youth camp where various young people from various districts of Bristol were invited to attend a camp at Exmouth that was attended by other young people of a similar age from other countries, namely from Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, etc. And that happened to be the year of Charles and Diana's wedding. And it was meant to bring together and foster international relations between young people. The dress sense that I have on there, you'll see I've got a kilt on, which actually was my mum's kilt.
Well, let's move on to picture number 5.
Okay.
And I know you've mentioned Barton Hill Youth Club, but I'm going to mention it again. Barton Hill Youth Club. You've worked with hundreds and hundreds of young people.
Yes.
You have simply changed many of their lives in a positive way.
Yep.
That place means a lot to you today,
Yeah.
and it means a lot to other people as well.
Correct.
You know, bang in the city of Bristol, in the centre of Bristol, and graffiti is something that you brought to them. Now, this is a double-edged sword, John, okay?
Yeah.
Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this now.
Yep.
Because graffiti art was a crime once upon a time.
It still is a crime now if you do it in the wrong place.
Tell me about it. Talk to me about it. Talk to me about the roots of graffiti art and criminality.
Okay, in Bristol, as well as major other UK cities, at that time in the mid-80s, there was lots of criminal damage being caused by graffiti, as it is and was known then. I was basically someone that was heavily and passionately involved with graffiti and documentation of the art. Barton Hill basically was a venue that offered the opportunity via myself to offer young people the opportunity to come from the illegal aspect of the art and coming into contact with the local authorities via the police. My job was a youth worker, was to work and listen to the needs expressed by young people. And many, many young people expressed the need for legal wall space, the space to be able to come in, paint safely, to express their ideas, to work with other like-minded young people, and to basically, if they were to gain some personage for their art and to be taken seriously for their art, they needed to lessen their illegal work and come over to the legal side. Now, don't get me wrong, many of them did come over to the legal side, but there will always be those young people involved with the graffiti scene or the street art scene, as it's known.
But where do you draw the line?
Exactly, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line between a beautiful art form and a crime? Where do you draw the line between what is deemed acceptable and not acceptable? And that was one of the main problems that I had as running the Barton Hill Graffiti Project was I was coming into contact with young people involved with criminality, but gained information in confidence that this is what they were doing. And it's how far you protect that confidence, how far you respect their individuality of self-expression. Now, their self-expression can also mean criminal damage and vandalism, which is deemed mindless to the vast majority of the general public.
Well, let me stop you there, yeah, because police were actually targeting you
Exactly.
in order to divulge information about where to find these street artists.
Okay.
You denied that privilege to the police.
Okay, in 1987, the biggest ever police investigation into illegal graffiti in the UK's history, and it still is today, focused on myself, Barton Hill Youth Club, and my link to all of the young people that were involved in being targeted by the police. What the police centred their operation on was that Barton Hill and myself were the hub of a kind of conspiracy where I was like some kind of Pied Piper who would play a tune and all these guys would dance to my tune. Truth of the matter was, these young people basically respected me and give me information in confidence. I knew who the artists who would put their tags up, or non-diplomes as they are known, or signatures on the work. I knew what their real names was. The police wanted me, in Operation Anderson, which was the name of the Operation Anderson investigation, they wanted me to divulge names that matched those of the graffiti artists. So was Inky this person? Was Nick Walker, aka was he known as Ego? Was this artist SP27 known as this? I completely refused to play their game and involve myself with any divulgement of the names matching these young people, because this was information I gained in confidence from young people, and it brought into question a grey area for many youth workers, especially young people like myself. Where do you draw the line between respecting their confidentiality, but also in the same breath holding information about acts of crime that had been committed?
Well, I just want you to hold a bit of information now, because we're going to go to a break.
Okay.
So we will go to a break now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about John's involvement with music and the music scene in the 80s, 90s and today, but also his involvement with Banksy. See you after the break. Hello, welcome back to My Life in 10 Pictures. I'm talking to John Nation, who is the godfather of Bristol street art. You'll hate that word, I know,
I do.
but it's absolutely true. I've seen it on a poster, so I know it's true. John, we've been talking just before the break about your relationship with Banksy and the secrecy and the confidentiality. So a lot of that will speak for itself. We don't know Banksy's real name. We've never seen his face. You know the man in question.
I do.
You've known him for a long time, and dare I say it, you inspired him as an artist.
I wouldn't say I inspired him.
I knew you were going to say that.
Banksy came to Barton Hill Project, where I was running the graffiti project, every weekend. He called it his religious pilgrimage to come to Barton Hill, because what he described Barton Hill as being the most inspiring stretch of concrete in his formative years as a young artist. What it also showed people, he said, and especially him, that if you had someone like myself who was passionate about young people's culture and art, that believed in them as young people and could channel them positively, that all of these young people had their own crazy little dreams. And what Barton Hill showed to Banksy and many others was very powerful, that you could go on and follow your own dreams. He basically describes me, and I quote Banksy on this, as being the most important and significant person of youth culture to come from Bristol in the last 20 years.
Well, moving away from graffiti art, but staying with the arts, music is another one of your loves.
I love music.
You do indeed, because the next picture, it's Bungie.
Correct.
And Bungie's from Laid Black.
Correct.
Laid Black, another Bristol global phenomenon.
Okay, the picture itself is taken of myself and Bungie in 1993, where we set up a party promotion company called Bristol Exposure, which primarily in the beginning put on parties that were rave parties, that were drum and bass parties, but we've doubled up with the fact that we also wanted to use our parties as a vehicle to expose, and the name is in the title, expose Bristol-based producers and talent to a wider audience when we had the opportunity to arise.
And that moves you nicely to the next picture. It doesn't actually look like you, but you were the coordinator of one of the very early Ashton Court Festival's music stages.
Okay, Ashton Court Festival. I was approached to help coordinate the dance stage, as it was known back then, by a lady called Sarah Tacky, who had been running the stage for many years. One of the reasons I was approached is because of Bristol Exposure and being involved currently at that time with what was happening musically, what direction it was going off in, whether it be rave, drum and bass, house, techno, electronica house, you name it. I knew all the genres, who was doing what and who was representing the best club nights in Bristol. So I came on board with Sarah to basically coordinate the stage and showcase the best of what Bristol as a clubbing city at those years between 96, 97, 98, 99 had to offer. And that included many of the artists that were already established but went on to become even more established outside of Bristol. So you had obviously acts like Daddy G from Massive Attack, you had Ronnie Size, Crust, Sub, Die, the Represent Boys. The list is endless of DJs that have played and showcased their skills at Ashton Court Club stage. And I was just proud to be involved yet again with something that is always held up and loved in Bristol, has been a major part of Bristol's cultural scene, the Ashton Court Festival. Sadly, its demise meant that it was sadly missed, but it was a great event.
And a great time.
And a great time, definitely.
The next photo, John, I actually recognise the man in the background. Is that on purpose?
The guy in the background of that photograph
Is that Goldie?
Is indeed Goldie.
What's he doing there?
I've known Goldie, or Cliff Price as he's known, since the early 80s. First and foremost, he was a graffiti artist, one of the UK's very first, who had a friendship with 3D, aka Robert Del Naja from Massive Attack, who happened to be in the Wild Bunch in the 80s. So throughout the 80s and 90s, my paths with Goldie have crossed. That picture was taken at a musical event called NAS, National Adventure Sports Show, which was the UK's largest extreme sports show aimed at providing entertainment and music and art for young people in this country. And I was approached by the organizer to coordinate and structure a musical program over the course of the weekend. So that would mean providing DJs, organising and contracting live bands to play. And one of those people was Goldie, because not only did he progress from becoming a great street artist, he also progressed to making some great music. One of the earliest pioneers of the drum and bass sound of this country, that this country and Bristol is very well known for and respected for. So the picture is of him in the background is from one of the events. And like I said, he's a great guy. He's gone on to do many other things besides art and music. He's well known, and it's no coincidence he's known because of his name being Goldie, because of his gold teeth.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. Okay, well, your next photo is a family photo. We're coming towards the end.
Okay.
So the penultimate, a family photo of your brother and your mum, Jean.
Yeah, correct.
It was your mum who, let's say, shaped your life.
Correct.
Who gave you all the direction you needed.
Yep.
And without her, who knows which direction you would have turned out.
Correct.
And it probably wouldn't have been the right one.
Yeah, totally agree. My mum has had a massive impact on my life solely because she brought myself and my brother up as a lone working parent. That time of our life was tough because my mum was a victim of domestic violence. That impacted on my life dramatically.
Did you witness that?
I witnessed that. Those memories will always stay with me. But what it helped me do was, when I became a youth worker, it helped me focus and look at the way that people like myself, as a young person, as a male, as a youth worker, reacted and interacted with young males in a youth work setting. Also how sexism played a major role in defining people's places and positioning in life. And it also made me a vehement campaigner against aggression of young males towards young women and stem it in the bud early from an early age. My mum steered a path for me. I have nothing but respect for women solely because of the way that she brought me up. I hate violence against any kind of women, threats or physical violence. But my mum, even though when I went off the rails a bit, my mum still supported me, believed in me, shown me the love and affection that any mum would. And now, looking back to where I am now, I think she's got a lot of respect and likes the fact that I did change my life for the better. I have done constructive, positive things as a young person and to help other young people in Bristol. And when there are events in Bristol like See No Evil, Upfest, my mum still goes to this present day. She's known as Mrs. Nation. She knows all of the graffiti artists. She knows musicians and DJs like Bungie and all these guys because she's always shown a massive interest in what I've done as a person and what I've always been involved with.
I know your mum's watching now. Tell me what you want to tell your mum.
I just want to say that I love her with all my heart and that I'll never forget ever what she's done for me. You know, it's that simple.
Well, let's take it full circle, John, as we come to the final picture. And thanks to Mum, she actually got you here. This is Bristol Street Tours. This is what you do now, apart from all the other things that you do.
Yep.
But Bristol has put you on the map, on the Bristol map, say, you know, forget the national scene
Yep.
for the moment or international scene. Bristol Street Tours means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Bristol Street Art Tours means a hell of a lot to me. 2 years ago, myself and my partner in Bristol Street Art Tours, Rob Dean, decided that Bristol as a city was renowned for having a culture of street art and graffiti, but no one was actually tapping into that. So we set up Bristol Street Art Tours in conjunction with Wear the Wall, which was Rob's little baby. And basically, for the last 2 years, we've nurtured and cultivated Bristol Street Art Tours to a position now where last year, my face was used on advertising posters to celebrate Bristol as a tourist destination. And Bristol tourism and Bristol as a whole know what street art, graffiti, and the Banksy factor brings to the city. It brings tourists, it brings money, it brings an attention and focus on Bristol. And we do the street art tours every Saturday. The Tourist Information Centre sell our tickets. You can book them via our own website. But what the most humbling thing for me is about this, that people are prepared to travel from, not just in the UK, not just Central Europe. We've had people from all around the globe come to Bristol to listen to myself or Rob talk on the tours about Bristol, about Banksy, about the current scene in Bristol. We also emphasise that there's more to Bristol than just Banksy. This city has got so much more in terms of artists and style of art that is painted here. And at the moment, we're ranked number 3 on TripAdvisor on activities to do in Bristol, solely on independent people's reviews who've been on the tour. And that, for me, is heartwarming that people have took the time out to actually write a review. They've enjoyed the tour that much, and that we're actually doing something that's bringing people into Bristol. And they don't just come to Bristol, do the tour and go home. They actually then go out and discover other parts of Bristol, Stokes Croft, the harbour side here. It's a great city, Bristol. I love it. It's in my heart forever.
Based on what you've said, if I didn't live here, I'd certainly come and visit.
Thank you.
John Nason, can I thank you wholeheartedly for talking to me?
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you very much indeed.
Excellent.
Okay.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. Well, we have come to the end of my life in 10 pictures with the great John Nation. I hope you'll join me next week when we'll join another very special person sharing their very special pictures. Take care for now. Bye-bye.